thoughts now.
Called Water as a Driver for Sustainable Recovery in Central Asia. And I'm very happy to have a very interesting panel here today for our today's session. And since we're short in time, as always, and trying to get as much people's voices heard in this short 1 hour, I will immediately give the word to our very first speaker, who will give a bit of a background of how this session came about. So I give the word to Martin Krasnai, and he's the Director of Central Asian Research at the University of Corvinus, Budapest. So Martin, already the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Lisa. And as you said, this session is about presenting the outcomes of the first part of our program, Water as a Driver of Sustainable Recovery in Central Asia, economic, institutional, and strategic aspects of water resources management. This program is being supported by the Blue Peace initiative for Central Asia of the Swiss Development Corporation, CIVI, Stockholm Institute of International Water Institute, CAREC, and my center, the Corvinus Center. So far, we had 4 webinars, and the 4 webinars try to cover the 3 key issues which are in the title of the program. The first webinar gave an assessment of the problems of the water sector in Central Asia, and we identified 2 major accelerating processes. One is a very rapid decay of the infrastructure of Central Asia, water infrastructures in particular, because of 30 years of underinvestment, and the cost of restoring and properly operating the infrastructure would be anything between $20 to $25 billion per year. And the second process is, of course, climate change, which is again accelerating, and we're seeing much longer and colder winters, which increase electricity need, energy need, and longer and drier summers, which would require more irrigation water, which is not less and less there. The second session discussed the place of the water sector in the broader economy. And we agreed that the water sector is an integral part of the economy. And without continuing and actually accelerating economic reforms, structural reforms, and institutional reforms, it will not be possible to make the water sector economically and financially sustainable. The third session dealt with the economic basis of the water sector, of regional cooperation, because it's agreed, since the region is connected by the 2 big rivers, Samudari and Sirdarya, it's practically impossible to pursue the earlier policies of trying to achieve self-sustainability through national investment. There is an urgent need to strengthen regional cooperation, and for that we need an economic basis. And the simple, or I even could say simplistic concept of timely water releases in summertime in exchange for fossil fuels in wintertime is just not going to work, because the water sector is linked to every sector, or almost every sector of the economy. So the concept must be much broader, and it should be joint investment, joint control, and joint operation of large regionally important water infrastructure. And there was a strong support to moving into this direction. And here the key is investment, because the region urgently needs massive investment, and that could be achieved through a smart regional investment concept, which would identify investments which are important for more than one country and which can be implemented more efficiently by several countries, rather than just one country. And the last session dealt with the strategic aspects of water resources management, as because of climate change, the proper management of the water sector becomes a strategic issue, an issue of survival, of economic, social, political stability for the region. So it must be discussed as a strategic issue with the objective of putting an end to resource competition and moving towards strategic cooperation on water. A strategic cooperation on water means recognition that closing the huge gap between the investment needs of each and every Central Asian country and the actual capacity of their economies should be a shared strategic objective of the whole region. And of course, placing the water issues into the broader strategic concept is becoming now very urgent with this major geoeconomic, geopolitical changes, like the takeover of the Taliban in Afghanistan. You need to find ways to involve Afghanistan and make the export of cheap, clean electricity from Central Asia to South Asia through Afghanistan a major objective of the countries of the region. So these were the 4 seminars, and we hope to continue this discussion in the framework of a community of practice, but my colleagues Guy and Kerry will speak in more details about these ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Martin. And indeed, the next speaker will be Ambassador Guy Bonvin, who will talk a little bit more about the opportunity that water provides as a driver for economic recovery. So right away, the word is yours, Guy. You now have 9 minutes.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleague of Central Asia. Just to the background, I'm not speaking out of my office, so that's why you might hear some noise behind, but this is the flexibility of today. So this project started 20 months ago, but we've all said 20 years ago, considering water as a driver for sustainable recovery. We were thinking, of course, economic recovery, socio-economic recovery, institutional and strategic aspect of water resource management. That was linked with say the COVID socio-economic crisis, but of course it's linked with some much deeper things, which is actually, of course, climate change, water resource management, and everything is actually linked together. Martin made a very nice introduction, summarizing the whole journey, so I will not come back on this one, but I will come back to one important word that is always my favorite. Water is an enabling factor for sustainable economic development and stability. Water is actually the heart of the socio-economic fabric of the region. Not only in Central Asia, but we are speaking now Central Asia, and water is everywhere. It's linked with energy, is linked with food production, is linked with health security, it links with, of course, industry and providing drinking water. So water is actually everywhere in the economy, and as such, any impact on the water availability has a huge impact on the socio-economic development at the end of the day of the stability of the region. But Martin mentioned also clearly this instability, which are also associated with climate change, which has an impact on the availability of water. And I came back 10 days ago of the climate change conference, Central Asia Climate Change Conference in Dushanbe, and the link was very clear. Impact on climate change, impact on the water and economy, and better to speak one voice as Central Asia as 5 voices or 6 voices to address this issue. Now, let me assume that, of course, every management leadership in the country wants to have the best for his own population. And I think this game we should work together, and this is where actually water diplomacy is a key aspect. And as water, say, special envoy, water ambassador, allow me to name that, it's really this important, I would say, cement to make the things also work, or transmission bell to make the thing all together. And well, this strategic discussion that was conducted by the whole during this 18 months was actually linked to strategic discussion aiming at addressing key key questions, understand where, how, and when, and why water is used. And also understand what is the risk in terms of availability, asset exposures, how to minimize this risk, how to minimize the cost of this risk, how to better drive the was with different specialists. And I was very pleased to see along this discussion the commitment of all colleagues to address the key issues from different. So now looking at this socio-economic recovery post-19 crisis or anticipating climate change crisis is actually the way to a global political mobilization to address climate change. And this is a unique opportunity now to find these sustainable ways to use it more efficiently water, creating value around water, reducing costs to the water energy mix. Blueprint Central Asia is actually a Swiss water diplomacy initiative, and we are here involved in this conversation. We are a Swedish colleague on seaweed with Providence University and CAREC, as also mentioned them, to try to inform the discussion, conversation, of course, with the colleagues of Central Asia. And the Swiss Water Diplomacy Initiative, which is active in the region since 7 years, has used this last 2 years to produce some knowledge material, which are very important. The report, Rethinking Water in Central Asia, renamed Cost of Inaction, published in 2019, provided an estimate of the lack of the savings for better cooperation, 4.5 billion per year, at the level of the region. This report also underlined the huge potential cost due to lack of cooperation, but also the huge potential savings and also reducing the risk with disaster risk reduction, the cost which is induced by that. We also supported the Lupis Index, published by the EIU, Economist Intelligence Unit in 2020, a metrics looking at the cooperation degree on the river basin. It is an architecture, it's looking at the architecture and the degree of implementation. It's provided a source of reflection, particularly looking at the aspect which is the degree of implementation in the region of the existing architecture. It is displayed, of course, the challenge which are on Amudaya and Sirdaya, but also report highlighting the importance to have a common commercial and ecological goal to stimulate cooperation. And this is also the common economic goal at the river basin shall be further worked on. And I think this came in the discussion. And the absence of an obvious goal like commercial navigation makes the challenge even bigger. So once the river basin team is able to address these issues, the financial attractiveness for a development plan, for other financing is very important. We look also at, I would say, the hidden traded water, which I would call it the shallow consumption. Actually, the water was the aim to understand that water, not just the water which is flowing in the rivers or stored in the dams, but water is also traded through products. And this is the water footprint study, which was actually discussed yesterday in the Stockholm meeting. And it's a way also to understand the interdependency between the countries. And this is, of course, looking at infrastructure, looking at irrigation, a way of saying, well, what are my common interests to address these important strategic issues. So in the 2 minutes I have more, I will insist on the fact that infrastructure needs a long brief, needs stability, needs trust, and need, of course, to go everything hand in hand together. And the group, I mean, we will see very deep downwards, make the reflection on smart investment concept based on strategic discussions on water and beyond water. And I would like to resume it like it is, like this. It is important to invest as much as necessary to secure mid-term and long-term water and economic resilience, and as little as necessary to finance only productive, systemic, and resilient assets in the respect of sustainable resource management and climate change. In order to reduce its exposure to the water sector, the economy and stability of the region need to be, its investment need to reduce its exposure to climate change by smart investment. Based on incentives on cross-sector and cross-country cooperation on strategic issues. It is important to blend long-term, mid-term, long-term, and immediate socio-economic benefit. Last but not least, and I think Martin was quite clear with the smart investment concept, identify and speak about concrete project, concrete failure, be together. And I think this is be proud enough and be courageous enough to go outside of the border, outside of the sector, call to discuss with other specialties. And I think this is also the beauty of water diplomacy, but this is the beauty of the work that you already accomplished here. And I'm very pleased to listen to the next contribution, which actually shows to the community with us today the importance of working together across the sectors and across the countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bova. And indeed, our next speaker is going to talk a bit about the value of the community of practice and the importance of dialogue platforms. And for that, we're happy to give the floor to Kerry Schneider from the Stockholm International Water Institute. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Lisa, let me start by thanking you for your moderation and timekeeping today. I will do my best to stay within the bounds. Thank you, Your Excellency and Mr. Krasny for your introduction so far. And on behalf of SIWI, the Stockholm International Water Institute, thank you and welcome to everyone joining us for the 2021 Stockholm World Water Week. As Mr. Krasny and Ambassador Bonvin have both highlighted, there were numerous outcomes and interventions made by the participating countries, identifying common problems, sharing current approaches to addressing those problems, and acknowledgement that countries must work together in order to solve those problems in the long run. Now, this last point will be the focus of my brief intervention today. And I'm happy to share that as we learn throughout the series of meetings, there's wide recognition of the need to cooperate amongst countries in Central Asia. Political will, or the absence of which, was once recently thought to be a barrier or a hindrance to cooperation, has now emerged at the highest levels across Central Asia. The question is no longer whether to cooperate, but rather how to cooperate. So with this initiative, the University of Corvinus Budapest, the Swiss government, the Regional Environmental Center for Central Asia, and SIWI saw an opportunity to bring a diverse community of stakeholders together with the aim of shaping such a framework. Now, in recognition that the challenges facing cooperation are numerous and varied, from the impacts of a changing climate to geopolitical instability, we understand that nobody, no agency, no ministry, no individual country is capable of solving all of these problems alone. And conversely, we may even allow ourselves to say that the solutions to these problems will come from all of us. And when it comes to regional cooperation, us turns out to be a rather large group. So over the course of this program, our meetings included high-level representation from every country in Central Asia. Ministries of Foreign Affairs, water ministries, strategic and technical advisors from across the region participated in dialogue and shared their national views of opportunities for cooperation. These dialogues were supported by an even longer list of international partners, each with its own capacity and role to play in encouraging cooperation. From researchers to investors, bilateral to multilateral agencies, from policy institutes to technical experts, our aim was to create connections and ultimately develop a community of practice capable of solving these problems collectively. So through careful coordination and well-timed assistance, this community, catalyzed by the political will to cooperate, represents a way forward. Not necessarily the way forward, but a way forward. And if countries maintain their openness and willingness to work together and to look for creative solutions to the incredibly complex challenges currently facing Central Asia, we hope that the connections made and the community that we brought together have demonstrated that establishing a framework for cooperation is more than possible. Indeed, it's already underway. Now, in saying all this, in recognition of the implicit and explicit values of cooperation, in reiterating the commonly held notion now that solutions to these problems require the effort of a broad community, it is with heavy hearts that we must acknowledge an important part of this community is absent today. When we launched this initiative some 20 months ago, we recognized the important role played by Afghanistan and the potential that the country represents in strengthening water, food, and energy security across Central Asia. And throughout the series of meetings that we held, representatives from Afghanistan demonstrated the high priority they place on water, as well as their eagerness to deepen their relationships with their neighbors to work cooperatively for the benefit of the people of Afghanistan and their Central Asian neighbors. New data sharing agreements amongst countries were intended to be the foundation of substantial efforts to broaden cooperation, and plans for new water storage infrastructure have been developed that may ease regional tensions linked to destabilizing floods and droughts. In the spirit of the World Water Week this year, we heard how intent Afghanistan was to build resilience faster. And we're now left to hope that this important progress won't be lost or stalled indefinitely. So just as water cuts across every aspect of humanity, I ask all of you, part of our community of practice now, to allow that humanity to shine and to reflect our deepest sympathies, concerns, and thanks to our Afghan colleagues currently facing unimaginable uncertainty and insecurity. So on behalf of the organizers of this program, and hopefully all of you, please join me in thanking our Afghan colleagues for their important contributions. Thank you to Mohammed Hassan Faizi. Thank you to Fayez Azizi. Thank you to Rahula Amin. Thank you to Barak Ariyubi. And thank you to Mujtaba Zaka. Your contributions were outstanding, and we can only hope the best for you now. For the countries that are able to join us, just as a closing note, we were really thrilled to be part of this community of practice and to do what we could in trying to make those connections. But I think as my partners, Ambassador Bonvin and Mr. Krasnay have both articulated, we see this very much as scratching the surface, and we very much want to encourage the countries of Central Asia to continue working together, to continue building on this community of practice, and to continue working towards solutions to these problems and creating investments for new opportunities in the future in cooperation. And I can easily say on behalf of the organizers, the University of Corvinus Budapest, the Swiss government, CAREC, and CIWI, we are on standby and ready to assist whenever needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Kerry, so much. And I absolutely allowed you the additional 3 minutes to make that very important point. So thanks for that. Our next speaker will offer a bit of a different perspective by actually sharing some hands-on experience in facilitating regional dialogues and information and knowledge exchange. We're pleased to have with us today Safar Mahmoudov, who's the Executive Director of the Regional Environmental Center for Central Asia. And the floor is yours, Safar.
Thank you, Lisa. Your Excellencies, dear panelists, dear participants of the World Water Week. I'm happy to welcome you on behalf of the Regional Environmental Center for Central Asia at the session devoted to the results of the ongoing program, Water as a Driver of Sustainable Recovery, Economic, Institutional, and Strategic Aspects of Water Resources Management in Central Asia, that united the efforts of the Blue Peace Central Asia initiative that's supported by SDC, the Stockholm International Water Institute, the Corvinus University, and CAREC. You all know that water is a key element of food, energy production, environmental safety, and in general livelihood security for the population of the region. Water contributes up to 28% of countries' GDPs through irrigated agriculture and almost 30% to overall energy production in the region. It is impossible to consider the prospects of development of the existing regional water management system and water resources management without taking into account mutual penetration and mutual influence of different economic spheres, especially general economic development and trade. There are known examples in the region on the opportunities for implementing intersectoral approaches in the planning and management of regional water systems. Earlier, Mr. Krasnai talked about the economic significance of water cooperation in the region, among many other values of water cooperation. The problems of the region were identified in many researches conducted in the last 30 years and before. Also referring to Mr. Schneider's question on how to continue and his invitation to unite for water cooperation, we believe now is the time to unite our efforts in making use of available knowledge and expertise created so far to move forward with actions and directing the sparse funds to build further on the gained momentum, gained knowledge, and water management expertise. Hence, support in strengthening all forms of cooperation and at any level, and in the search for new cooperation opportunities from international and national development partners has an important impact on the gradual change of existing regional water management system. CAREC, from its side, for the last 20 years has been supporting the water dialogue in the region at different levels. For the last 10 years, we have been assisting the countries in the introduction of integrated water resources management principles and practices at different levels in Central Asia. Working through our high-level platforms, like the meetings of the Ministries of Foreign Affairs and parliamentarians, we are providing political support and delivery policy and legislation messages and cooperation practices through legislative and foreign policy instruments. Another example is the Central Asian International Environmental Forum is our platform for regular exchange of efforts and progress in Central Asia on environment and sustainable development. Our approach in maintaining the water dialogue is based on multi-stakeholder participation and strengthening the involvement of regional, national, and local stakeholders in water management. This is implemented through the establishment of regional and national thematic working groups, project steering committees, as well as small basin councils in which local communities are involved. CAREC is providing training and capacity building in the water sector through our project training programs and through our annual Central Asia Leadership Program, so-called CALP, a unique regional training for young leaders on water management and sustainable development topics as an efficient tool for youth capacity building and building partnership in Central Asia. Through our knowledge platforms, we are stocking and making available the actual publications, manuals, and training materials on IWRM practices, basin planning, water efficiency, and productivity, payment for ecosystem services, economic and financial tools, adaptation to climate change in the water sector, and other best practices.
Safar, I'm afraid your time is coming to an end. If you can come to a conclusion, that would be fantastic.
Yes, the final word. Thank you. The final word is about the Central Asia Climate Change Conference I wanted to make, to tell about, which was just recently held, which allows sharing knowledge and information on adaptation to climate change, exploring opportunities for joint action between international, regional, and national platforms and partners. Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak, and let me also join Mr. Schneider in thanking our Afghan partners in participating and joining efforts to build community of practice in these hard times of uncertainty faced by the nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Safar. We are trying to reach our Kazakh colleagues, but for now they haven't managed. They have some connection problems. So I will go ahead and invite Ms. Gulmira Satimkulova to present her speaking points. She is the chief specialist at the State Water Resources Agency of the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Water Resources of the government of Kyrgyzstan. And she will talk about the importance of cooperation and joint investments in water infrastructure to increase benefits and to manage water resources. Please, Ms. Satimkulova, the floor is yours. And you have 5 minutes.
Да, спасибо большое. Здравствуйте, уважаемые участники Всемирной недели воды. Это не у меня. Таис, у меня была же презентация. Можете, пожалуйста, ее включить?
There is quite a bit of echo on your line. I wonder how we can try to reduce that echo. Thais, do you know where this is coming from?
Гульмира, не могли бы вы выключить перевод на время вашей презентации? Потому что у нас слышно эхо. Да.
Сейчас, секундочку, да. Как-то так, хорошо. Вот. Теперь хорошо, да, слышно, да? Я представляю Государственное агентство водных ресурсов Кыргызстана и хочу коротко рассказать о сотрудничестве и инвестициях в водную инфраструктуру Кыргызстана. Вообще Кыргызстан – это зона формирования стока рек, таких рек, как Амударья, Сырдарья, Чу, Талас, Тарим. Средний многолетний объем возобновляемых водных ресурсов около 50 кубокилометров в год. И при этом обеспеченность водными ресурсами 8,2 тысячи метров кубических на человека в год. Но используется только 20-25% от имеющихся водных запасов. И при этом Кыргызстан не обладает природными углеводородными запасами или электроэнергией, которые являются важным источником жизнеобеспечения и экономического развития. После распада Советского Союза произошло недофинансирование водохозяйственной инфраструктуры, что подорвало способность стран Центральной Азии обеспечивать стабильное водоснабжение на национальном и межгосударственном уровнях. Сейчас водные... Далее можно? Дальше. Да, спасибо. Сейчас в стране не хватает ресурсов, необходимых для защиты водоносных горизонтов наших рек. И сегодня водная инфраструктура находится в аварийном состоянии. Плата за воду, которая была введена в 1995 году, привела к значительному сокращению водопользования. После 1991 года было создано большое количество мелких кооперативов и частных участков, а также были созданы ассоциации водопользователей, фактически выступающие в роли колхозов и совхозов советского времени. Поэтому из-за недостаточного обслуживания пропускная способность оросительных каналов уменьшилась на 15-20%. Наблюдаются высокие потери воды. Дальше можно? Ну, несмотря на усилия по внедрению интегрированного управления водными ресурсами, до сегодняшнего дня управление остается фрагментированным между несколькими министерствами и ведомствами. Ну, основная причина, конечно, незавершенность переходного процесса. И здесь структурные реформы не были полностью реализованы. В качестве шага в правильном направлении Водный кодекс учредил единое государственное агентство по водным ресурсам. Но до сих пор, к сожалению, отсутствует действенный механизм межгосударственного сотрудничества. Есть, конечно, несколько хороших примеров соглашений, в соответствии с которыми страны, расположенные ниже по течению, вносят свой вклад в расходы на предоставление услуг по водоподаче. И один из таких ярких примеров – это совместная работа в бассейне рек Чуй-Талас. Дальше можно, да? Здесь, значит, в 2000 году было подписано соглашение между правительствами Кыргызстана и Казахстана об использовании водохозяйственных сооружений межгосударственного пользования на реках Чуй-Талас. И в 2006 году была создана Чуй-Таласская водохозяйственная комиссия, которая ежегодно проводит совместное обследование межгосударственных объектов для составления дефектных актов. И в период с 2006 по 2021 год проведено 28 заседаний комиссии. Заседания проходят 2 раза в год. 5 международных конференций проведено, свыше 30 заседаний секретариата. Есть рабочие группы при секретариате, которые работают, ну, тоже очень хорошо. Также в период с 2006 года по 2020 год Казахстаном было выделено и профинансировано более 5 миллионов долларов на содержание объектов межгосударственного пользования. При этом расчет затрат производится ежегодно и утверждается на заседаниях комиссии. Дальше можно? Успехи сотрудничества – это обеспечение устойчивости двустороннего сотрудничества путем реализации решений комиссии. Также это мы совершенствуем технологии учета путем разработки, совершенствования, внедрения автоматизированных систем СКАДА на наших объектах, совместное обследование. Также мы приняли в госструктуры стран руководителей секретариатов для оказания финансовой поддержки. Дальше можно? Наш опыт Чуй-Таласской комиссии был в полной мере использован при создании механизмов сотрудничества с Республикой Узбекистан по Орштетакойскому, Кацансанскому водохранилищу, которое находится на территории Кыргызстана, но подает воду в основном для нужд водопользователей Узбекистана. В Ташкенте в 2017 году было подписано соглашение между правительствами наших стран о межгосударственном использовании этого водохранилища. И согласно статье 2 этого соглашения, узбекская сторона перечисляет финансовые средства на техническое обслуживание водохранилища на счет Центрального казначейства Минфина Кыргызстана. Дальше можно?
Ms. May I ask you to come to an end, please?
Okay.
Thank you so
Основное
much.
внимание уделяется реализации вот этих мероприятий. И здесь увеличение сети гидропостов, введение расширенной системы и так далее, и так далее. Спасибо большое за внимание.
Thank you very much, and apologize for cutting you short potentially, but we have a lot of other interesting speakers still. And with that, I want to give the floor already to the next speaker, who is going to talk a bit about how countries in the Aral Sea Basin are demonstrating cooperation and diplomacy with regards to shared water resources. And I'm happy to welcome, now I have seen that she is, oh no, she's still there. I'm happy to welcome Gulbahor Zurdieva. She's an engineer of the Akal Balkan Exhibition Department of the Turkmen State Water Management Research, Production and Design Institute. Please, Ms. Zurdieva, the floor is yours. If you are still here. I don't see her right now in the list of participants, and in this case, I will swiftly move on to the next speaker, and hopefully Ms. Turdieva will be able to rejoin the session. I will give the word in this case to the representative of the Republic of Uzbekistan. And particularly, I'm happy to invite Janibek Turdibayev to talk about improving water efficiency. He's the chief researcher at the Institute for Strategic and Regional Studies under the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Mr. Turdibayev, the floor is yours. You have 5 minutes.
Уважаемые участники, хотел бы вас поприветствовать в первую очередь. Меня зовут Джанибек Турдубаев, я представитель Института стратегических и межрегиональных исследований при президенте Республики Узбекистан. В своем выступлении хотелось бы отметить, что На сегодняшний день около трети населения планеты, то есть 2,6 миллиарда человек, живут в странах с серьезным дефицитом воды. А 1,7 миллиардов человек в 17 странах сталкиваются с крайним дефицитом воды. Особенно данная проблема сильно проявляется на Ближнем Востоке, в некоторых странах Африки и Южной Азии. И в этой связи отмечается, что нехватка водных ресурсов в этих регионах могут привести к конфликтам и миграции населения, а также дестабилизировать политическую ситуацию в данных регионах. Как и многие другие регионы на сегодняшний день, Центральная Азия также сталкивается с серьезной проблемой дефицита воды. Этому способствует ряд факторов. Первое – это естественный прирост населения, что приводит с собой увеличение роста потребления воды. Например, к 2050 году отмечается, что население Центральной Азии вырастет до 90 миллионов человек, а дефицит воды в этом случае вырастет до 25-30%, и объемы водоснабжения достигнут критической отметки менее чем 1,7 тысяч кубометров в год. И в этой связи данная ситуация усложнит доступ населения и сельского хозяйства к воде, так как за последние 40 лет объемы воды в данном регионе уже сократились с 8,4 тысяч до 2,5 тысяч кубометров на человека в год. Вторым фактором является потепление климата. Отмечается, что за последние 30 лет температура в регионе выросла уже на 1 градус. И к 2050 году ученые прогнозируют, что увеличение температуры будет в районе 2-3 градусов. И это обстоятельство приведет к усилению засушливости региона, таянию ледников, сокращению объемов стока Амударьи, к примеру, на 10-15%, Сырдарьи на 6-10%. И эти процессы усилят водный дефицит, и они будут негативно отражаться на состоянии почв, что может привести к снижению урожайности сельхозкультур на 10-15%. Третьим фактором является нерациональное использование водных ресурсов. В настоящее время в Узбекистане и во всех странах Центральной Азии на орошаемое земледелие расходуется 89 и 92% водных ресурсов, в то время как данный показатель во всем мире составляет 57%. И в течение следующих 30 лет площади орошаемых земель могут сократиться еще на 20-25%. Уважаемые участники сессии, также хотел бы отметить, что долгое время вопросы совместного использования водопользования считалось камнем преткновения в отношениях стран региона. Однако с приходом к власти в Узбекистане Шавката Мирзоевича Мирзиёева данная ситуация изменилась кардинальным образом. Благодаря открытой и конструктивной политике президента Узбекистана в регионе удалось создать новую политическую атмосферу. И мы стали исходить от принципа, что нерешаемых проблем в регионе нет. В регионе стали открыто обсуждать даже самые острые вопросы. В результате между странами региона были достигнуты беспрецедентные результаты в урегулировании таких вопросов, как крайние цели использования водно-энергетических ресурсов. В частности, были предприняты активные действия по углублению регионального сотрудничества в сфере водопользования. Была создана рабочая группа для выработки предложений по всем направлениям водных отношений Узбекистана с Казахстаном и Таджикистаном. Также разрабатывается положение о создании с Кыргызстаном совместной двусторонней водохозяйственной комиссии для достижения конструктивного решения по вопросам водно-энергетической сферы. Взаимодействие с Туркменистаном плодотворно развивается в рамках трехсторонней рабочей группы с участием бассейновой водохозяйственной организации Амударья. Кроме того, разрабатываются практические меры по запуску полноценной работы единого энергокольца в Центральной Азии. С Кыргызстаном было достигнуто соглашение о взаимных поставках электроэнергии в объеме до 750 миллионов киловатт-час, из которых 250 миллионов будут поступать в Узбекистан по условной цене за 1 киловатт-час, что позволит наполнить Токтагульское водохранилище и обеспечить водой Узбекистан в вегетационный период в 2021 и 2023 годах. Также запланировано совместное строительство 2 ГЭС на реке Заравшан с Таджикистаном мощностью 320 мегаватт. Данный шаг является одним из самых важных регионов в плане использования трансграничных водных ресурсов. Также Ташкент проявляет готовность участвовать в проектах строительства Камбаратинской и Драгунской ГЭС. В целом, хотелось бы отметить, что улучшение использования потенциала гидроэнергетики и совместное планирование объемов резервов могут принести...
Thank you also, Mr. Turdibayev, to come to an end. Thank you very much.
Могут принести экономические выгоды странам Центральной Азии. Так, по оценкам Всемирного банка, в результате достижения этих результатов регион может заработать $6,4 миллиарда. Таким образом, укрепление взаимодействия между странами региона в водно-энергетической сфере будет способствовать устойчивому развитию региона и будет отвечать интересам всех стран без исключения. И кроме того, очень важно, что для того, чтобы решать вышеуказанные проблемы, у всех стран региона появилась политическая воля. Благодарю вас совсем.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm happy to say that Ms. Turdieva has managed to reconnect. So without further ado, I will give the word to her to share her view and experience in cooperation and diplomacy on shared water resources in the Aral Sea Basin. Please, Ms. Turdieva, the floor is yours.
Добрый день. Водная дипломатия является ключевым направлением внешней политики Туркменистана и открывает возможности для ведения регулярных диалогов, способствующих решению всех проблем, связанных с рациональным использованием этого важного ресурса на основе сотрудничества. Туркменистан имеет позитивный опыт в рассмотрении и решении водных вопросов с определением государством на основе максимального учета обоюдных интересов. При этом использование водных ресурсов трансграничных рек общественной на базе заключения двухсторонних соглашений, в которых регламентация водоуправления основывается на принципе взаимной выгоды. Туркменистан стороны считает, что доступ к чистой питьевой воде является одним из основополагающих прав человека. Водное сотрудничество должен следовать трем принципам. Первым основывается на общих признаках принцип международных прав. Вторым учитывает интересы каждого государства Центральной Азии. Осуществляется при поддержке международных собственных прежде всего организация Объединенных Наций. Изменение климата является серьезной проблемой, которая негативно сказывается на природе, водных ресурсов и экономике. Последствия изменения климата для окружающей средней экономики и общества стали одним из наиболее актуальных глобальных проблем международных собственных, и они заняли прочное место в ряде главных экологических проблем, стоящих пред мировым сообществом, а также основной острый стоит вопрос влияния изменения климата на водный ресурс, ситуация условий демографическим ростом и интенсивным экономическим развитием. С момента провозглашения своим независимости Туркменистан демонстрирует свою приверженность основным принципам международных водных прав. Туркменистан присоединился к Конвенции Европейской экономической комиссии по охране и использованию трансграничных водных и международных озер. Подписание 17 марта 1992 года Хельсинки. Туркменистан и другие страны Центральной Азии обладают достаточным опытом анализа и решения водных проблем на основах взаимных интересов и в соответствии с двух- и многосторонним соглашением. Туркменистан активно участвует в работе международных пакт спасения Арал. Спасибо.
Thank you very much, Ms. Durdjeva. Unfortunately, I think the speaker from Kazakhstan is unable to join us today. And with that, I think we managed our time quite well, given that we have now a very nice 10 minutes for some closing remarks from Ambassador Guy Bonvin, with potentially a few rounds of questions from his side to close off the session. Thank you, Mr. Bonvin.
So basically you, wait a minute, I have to change the, you are taking me a bit by surprise, but this is good. It is important, I mean, we heard from the speakers, the importance of cooperation. And I think this also importance joining together, investing together. I'm from Uzbekistan. We had some close cooperation with the other countries, with Tajikistan, with also Kyrgyzstan. We heard also the importance from on the side of Turkmen, its regional cooperation, the importance of law, and I think all these aspects are extremely important. The Kazakh colleague was not online. Encompassing everything in the arrangement between the countries. So my point here at this moment, the most important thing for me is this, what Kerry is underlined at the very beginning, is community of practice and the importance to have this dialogue beyond the water sector. The importance to look not only as water, but as water as a whole, as a part of the economy, of the part of the security, and at the part of the wealth of the region. In English, you can play on word wealth with we and health. And I think here it is important to look at this. Strategic issues definitively is the strategic issues for the region, and I will definitively recommend that this smart investment concept and the further discussion down the line is perceived by the same team. And I will make also an advice to keep as much as possible the same team on board. It is important to build this trust, build this knowledge between the participants and continue the conversation. Water is definitively a challenge, but is also a solution. I think this is what should be also taken here, and water knows no border, no political border, no sectorial border, no generation border. And all the work we are taking now, looking at the social economic development of the region, the environment, and I think Mr. Mahmoudov may underline very clearly also the importance of climate change, environment, and referring to the CALP program, also preparing the next generation. And I think all these blend. I mean, we are here with some gray hair, but the next generation has no gray hair. We need excellent future perspective in terms of development, and water definitely is key. And investment for the next 10, 15, 20 years are important. No one can act alone. I mean, this is also, I would say, as a Swiss here in the middle of Europe, water is something which has to be managed together and be on the risk side, be on the potential side. Kerry also underlined that unluckily for the time, we don't have anymore our Afghan colleagues on board, and I will also underline this importance of the work they delivered for and the commitment, and also have a thought for them in the moment, for the difficult time they have. And I wish also that at one moment it would be possible to have them back on board, speaking about water, speaking about sharing the wealth in the region. So I will try to conclude my work my word here and really advising to continue this conversation and also to look to other conferences or panels in this Water Week session. We had the day before on water footprint. We had the next day a conversation with the colleague of the OSCE, looking more at the security strategic aspect of the water diplomacy. And I think this is all these dimensions are playing together. And looking at the economic aspect, it's definitively, and coming from that side, it's definitively a key issue. So again, thank you very much for all your participation. And I would like to, of course, recommend this continue this conversation. And we have hopefully planned a face-to-face meeting in October in Bishkek at the occasion of the European Union Central Asia Economic Forum, and also not to take the word of our colleague Martin in our summit in Budapest in November. So these are the milestones in the future, and I recommend also that you will share all your thoughts with your colleagues. I cannot say back home because you're already at home, but to have. Thank you again also for Lisa for chairing this meeting and be the hard timekeeper, even worse than myself. That is excellent. And I will give back the word to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bova. Yeah, I guess my timekeeping was even too good, given that now we have 4 minutes left, but this was meant to be for the Kazakh speaker. But nonetheless, I would like to thank everyone to have participated in this very interesting panel. And I wish you a lot of interesting additional new things to discover during this week of sessions. And with that, I would like to would say goodbye, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, all of you.